Welcome to Mystara for the latest remaster, Curse of Xanathon. This adventure doesn't get much attention because of its location in the release schedule. It's Module X3, meaning it's sandwiched by other adventures that are considered legendary to this day. It's the Mark Koenig of Mystara modules, and much like the shortstop of the 27 Yankees, it doesn't get the respect or recognition of the Babe Ruth Isle of Dread, Lou Gehrig Castle Amber, or Earl Combs Desert Nomad series. Time to give some love to the utility infielder of the Expert series. I'm Mr. Welch, and root for the home team. Curse of Xanathon was written in '82 by Douglas Niles, who has been on this channel many times. Timothy Truman gets all the credit for the art, both cover and interior, though there's an impressive and uncredited Jim Holloway full-color piece on page 22. There's no mistaking a Jim Holloway piece. The module is a standard 32 pages with two fold-out covers. It's for character levels 5 to 7, and you can jump right into it after Isle of Dread or Castle Amber. To get the pricing out of the way early, it's available for PDF on the Guild, but you can find a played copy online for about 20 bucks. There's not much of a demand for it. I don't think it's been given the full POD treatment, but just be careful because I know the Guild has offered some books for POD and pulled them off the market for some reason. Fair warning, this is a video for DMs looking to run the adventure with lots of tips from my experience. Players might want to stay away. The adventure predates the Northern Reaches, so the town of Runa has a distinctive not-Viking feel. Duke Stephen has been acting very strange. Not all like a Vestlandic noble, in fact. You could substitute any generic ruler for the Mad Duke and nobody would notice. If you want to make this more in line with the official Vestland, make the town more Nordic aesthetically. There's a few other glaring problems, like the threat of the Ethengars. They were officially Mongols in all but name. In addition, the bad guy immortal is Krishia, the patron of mischief. But he's not evil. He's certainly not the type to start wars. In this case, the guy posing as him is an entropic immortal. When the party solves the adventure, they expose the true identity of the false Krishia. And it's probably going to be Loki. Who else is it going to be? Let's not kid ourselves. There will be consequences behind the scenes in Pandius. Impersonation of another immortal to their followers is a huge rules violation. But Loki. When the Gazetteers were later written, it was obvious that Vestland was not a target for Ethengar because of the horse-resistant rough terrain. Make the pending invasion of Ethengar just a large mercenary or bandit group if you want. Unlike other modules that predate the Gazetteers, this one is an easy fix. The adventure starts with the party arriving in Runa and learning all about the strange laws the Duke has been handing out. Like, all taxes must be paid in beer. Actually, if you're going with the Gazetteer adjustments, that one doesn't sound out of place for a Viking land. Horses must be ridden backwards, nothing may be burned after dark, dwarves are now illegal, and the Duchy of Runi has declared war on Rockholm. That last one is a bit concerning, to put it mildly. The party will notice a large number of taverns in the border town, 20 to be precise, numbered 1 to 20 on the chart, but none standing out apart from each other in detail. The party will also notice the Temple of the Spuming Nuga. Then the snickering will start, and not stop because it sounds dirty. It did then. It does now. Say it with me. Spuming Nuga. It's another form for the immortal Proteus, who does not actually appear in this adventure. And for the DMs running this adventure, spuming means blowing water out of a blowhole. And Nuga was an archaic term for baleen whales. So a spuming Nuga is a whale exhaling water out of its blowhole. Now tell your players to stop snickering. Blowhole. This is where the module takes shape, as it's a triple threat module. Much of it spent running around Runa, piecing together the mystery of why the normal, sane, and open-minded Duke has apparently gone gaga. The module has a city element, a hex crawl element, and finally you go on several dungeon crawls. It's one of the few modules that pulled off this transition from one location to another, and one of the ones that does it well for just a few pages. There's a helpful beggar that knows more than he lets on, but you can leave him out because some parties will torture him for information if he gives one too many clues. Knowing everything in a mystery makes you a suspect. Depending on the party composition, the module might need a bit of tweaking because, unlike other adventures, character backgrounds come into play big time in Xanathon. Dwarves are marching to attack the city, putting any dwarf characters on the spot. The Ethengar is supposed to be the big bad, meaning a character from that nation will also become an immediate suspect. Then again, the Ethengarian would be the first one to notice that the Temple of Krishia is not what it seems. Go with those details. Players will love it when their background has an unexpected passive benefit. The horse warrior that goes to pay his respect at the temple will know more about the religion than the actual priest. Warning bells would be going off instantly. It would be like a Southern Baptist attending the Sunday potluck and noticing a complete lack of green bean casserole. Minor details like that would be highly suspicious to someone from that upbringing. The first part of the adventure involves the party getting all the rumors, finding out who the power players in the town are, and attempting to get to the Duke to see if he's actually making all the bizarre proclamations. While they're arriving in town and getting their bearings, the declaration of war will be announced. This kicks off the adventure because, in the game, it makes no sense to anyone. First, one town will not declare war against an entire country. San Antonio is not going to declare war on Luxembourg and have anyone take them seriously, though I put my money on San Antonio with that one. The town has good standings with the dwarves. There's no lingering racial strife at all. The random announcement confuses the townfolk more than stirs them into action. Many blame the new law on the captain of the guard, Draco Stormsailor. DMing tip, change that guy's name. Is there an adventure, book, or show where a guy with the first name Draco was the good guy? You tell everybody that the advisor to the king is named Draco Stormsailor. He's obviously the villain. Now, if his name is Jan Johansson, nowhere near as suspicious. The party might even schedule an appointment with his secretary instead of breaking into the barracks. Then the game turns into a dungeon crawl, where the party has to sneak through the barracks to find incriminating evidence against Sir Evil McNaughtybad to kick off the quest part of the adventure. This can be a bother for party members, as the ducal guard can be loyal to the Duke. His weird new laws might confuse them, but they are sworn to uphold them. There's many role-playing opportunities here for players to convince guards to help them, point them in the right direction, or ignore them so the Duke can be cured. They will find the incriminating evidence they seek, but no Evil McNaughtybad, but they have the next clue. This part might be difficult for party members because they must find the note, but they still have to go on the rest of the adventure. Even if they expose the bad guy, his troops might be loyal to him. Or even if they hold down Sir Evil McNaughtybad, they still can't cure the Duke. That requires the second quest part. Since there is a very large angry dwarf army rapidly approaching at their slow, methodical dwarven pace, no one can be spared from the town guard. It's up to the party. There's no escaping destiny. The party now has a name for the guy who's behind it all. So they get to skip over the Temple of Crisia to confront the High Priest. Well, the party already knows he's the bad guy. His name is literally on the name of the module that's facing them. But they get to do more dungeon crawling in a city-based module. Here's where you need to adjust more to make this module like the Gazetteers. Again, it's just simple substitutions to increase player immersion. The magic user goes from being a run-of-the-mill wizard to a Hakaman. Use the rules out of Ethengar for that class, it's easy. This part also follows one of my bits of advice for exploration, as everything is written in Ethengarian. None of their scrolls, books, or messages are in common. If the party can't speak that language, they're going to need magic or a translator. But if one of the party is Ethengarian, that character will save you a lot of spells. The party then goes sneaking around, finds the big bad, and more importantly, the big bad's impervious plot armor. They can't hurt him. They can't even wound him. The party will lose this encounter. It's not one they can win. And it's evident from the start they need to be anywhere but there. If you have stubborn players, this module will end right there, and not in a good way. You will need to stress, in no uncertain terms, they need to gallantly chicken out, bravely take to their feet, and beat a very brave retreat. Then we come to the exploration part of the adventure. Before the characters get out of town, the Duke has declared another law, requiring all horses to be fed meat only. Even if the party can reach the Duke, no spells can cure his madness. If you want to save the Duke, you have to figure out how to hurt Xanathon. And I don't mean by setting him up on a blind date, getting his hopes up really high, and then dumping him the next day. That move might leave him naked in the shower, bawling his eyes out while eating Oreos, but he's still going to be invulnerable to damage. No, they've got to get to the Shrine of Crisia to remove that protection up in the mountains. And that means one thing. There's going to be rock climbing. There's not much to the hex crawl portion of the adventure. It's relatively short, but there's lots of time for adventure hooks. It takes 5 days, and it's up a mountain. Break out the rules for survival. Burn some supplies while they scale cliffs, and of course, there's many combat chances. Sadly, there's no Manticore fight, despite the fantastic art from Jim Holloway. Screw that. On day 3, have the Manticore attack. You don't waste an awesome full-page art from a master like Jim Holloway by not giving the party the experience of that fight. Then 5 days later, the party reaches the Shrine of Crisia. Well, they hit a fork in the road. Go one way and they get the fight on the cover of the module with the Chimera. Go the other way, they find the temple. DMs, you might be inclined to just make this a Morton's fork so they fight the Chimera either way, because it's got some sweet loot that the players will definitely want. But if they flip the wrong side of the coin when they choose which path they take, they just miss out on the entire encounter. Just because a module gives you a choice, you don't have to offer it. It's a decent encounter against a memorable and iconic monster, and players will remember the combat. Now back to dungeon crawling. Unlike the sneaky parts back in Runa, this is a room-by-room cave cleaning. Again, give the clerics and wizards an Ethengarian vibe. You can even throw in a spirit shaman instead of just one of the clerics. Give the bad guys a unique flavor. It's better for the players. Unlike the temples and the barracks back in Runa, there's no sneaking in this place. Everybody will attack you on sight. There's a lot of monsters here ripe for stabbing. There's a lot of no-save traps, but nothing immediately lethal. This adventure wasn't written by Gary, after all. The party kills its way to the MacGuffin, and they get to meet the one new monster introduced in the adventure, the Hypno-Snake. All glory to the Hypno-Snake. Yeah, that's somebody's fetish. But the party has the MacGuffin, and it's back to Runa to stop the surprise villain, who's not a surprise to anyone because his name is literally on the title of the adventure. Also Sir Evil McNaughtybad. And the ending is kind of anticlimactic. Xanathon realizes the jig is up and coughs up the cure, even if halfway pressured. By that, he knows when the MacGuffin is brought even remotely near to him, his invulnerability disappears. He's got substantial defenses and is in the back of the temple to Cretia, but if the party convinces him they've got his kryptonite, he folds like a 2-7 offsuit hand in poker. There's no fight. He just tosses it to him out of the window and tells them to go away, then flees. He scarpers off to be a future villain, but the party can sate their bloodlust by fighting their way through treasonous guards. And then Sir Evil McNaughtybad. But if they've already done all that, then they can go straight to the Duke and remove his curse. The end. There is a plot hole to this module that you might have noticed, as Xanathon wants the Loyalists and traitors to fight to the death, and then his mercenaries arrive and take over. That still leaves a pissed-off Dwarven army marching to force an explanation out of the Duke. If they find a conquering Ethengarian army instead, they would know immediately what happened, and would be rather put out at being used as pawns. Then they would beat the duplicitous occupiers until Candy comes out. My players pointed that out the first time we ran through it, and it's always stuck with me. That's Curse of Xanathon. It's an above-average module with many different adventuring styles included. It's part hex crawl, part dungeon crawl, part city dive, and tons of mystery elements thrown in. It's not as famous as the 4 modules on either side of it, but that means your players won't be as familiar with it. Next up, I'm continuing to clean up my old shame by covering the trail maps, one of the most impressive, informative, and absolutely impractical gaming aids ever created. Until then, don't put the villain's name on the outside of the module.